Ever wonder what's really going on in your brain when you fall asleep? It's not just an on-off switch, it's this incredibly complex and fascinating journey. So in this explainer, we're going to break down that entire process, stage by stage, from the moment you close your eyes all the way to your most vivid dreams.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at the brain while you're still awake. Then we'll dive into the 4 stages of what's called non-REM sleep. And finally, we'll get to the most well-known part, REM sleep, where the dreaming happens. So before we can even get to sleep, we have to talk about being awake. Because, it's not just one simple state. Your brain actually operates in 2 very distinct modes when you're awake, and it all comes down to 2 different kinds of brainwaves, beta and alpha. And this breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you have beta waves. That's your brain in high gear. When you're focused, you're alert, you're in a state of active mental concentration. But what happens when you close your eyes and just relax? Your brain shifts gears into these slower alpha waves. You're still awake, but you're calm. This is that pre-sleep zone, the launch pad for drifting off.
So, from that calm, relaxed alpha state, your brain takes the next step. It crosses the threshold into the very first stage of actual sleep. We call this non-REM stage 1, and this is the official gateway. And right away, the brain's electrical signature shifts again. Those alpha waves fade out, and in their place, we start to see these even slower waves called theta waves. When an EEG picks up theta waves, that's the definitive marker that sleep has officially begun. As the brain makes this shift, the body starts to follow. Stage 1 is the lightest phase of sleep you'll experience. Everything slows down. Your pulse, your breathing, your blood pressure drops. And this is also where you might get those weird little muscle twitches or jerks, those episodic body movements, as you're just starting to fall asleep.
But you don't stay here long. Stage 1 is really just a quick transition, kind of like walking through a doorway. For a typical young adult, it only accounts for about 5% of their total sleep time for the entire night.
Next up, we sink a bit deeper into non-REM stage 2. This stage is really interesting because it's defined by 2 very specific, very unique brainwave patterns that show up on an electroencephalogram or EEG.
And you can spot these 2 hallmarks pretty clearly in the waveform. First, you get these short, rapid bursts of brain activity. Those are called sleep spindles. And then you get these big, sharp, high-amplitude spikes. Those are known as K-complexes. These 2 are the defining features of stage 2 sleep. This stage, the one with the spindles and K-complexes, is a big deal because it's where we spend the majority of our time asleep. It's also the stage where some people might experience bruxism, which is just the clinical term for tooth grinding. And when I say we spend a lot of time here, I really mean it. In young adults, stage 2 accounts for a massive 45% of the night. That's nearly half of your total time asleep right there.
From stage 2, we descend even further into the deepest phase of non-REM sleep. This covers both stage 3 and stage 4. Now, these 2 are so similar in function that they're often just grouped together and called slow-wave sleep. And that name, slow wave, comes directly from the EEG pattern. The brain is now producing these things called delta waves. They're high-amplitude, low-frequency waves, literally the slowest brain waves your brain produces during sleep. So, to be crystal clear, when you see these delta waves, you know the brain is in its deepest, most relaxed state of sleep. Their presence is the defining feature of this absolutely critical stage. This is when your body is at its most relaxed. But, and here's a strange paradox, this is also the stage where certain sleep disorders can emerge. Things like night terrors, sleepwalking, also known as somnambulism, and bedwetting or enuresis tend to happen during these deep stages. In young adults, we spend a good chunk of the night here. It adds up to about a quarter of our total sleep time, 25%, in these really restorative deep sleep stages. But, and this is a critical point, that 25% figure doesn't last forever. The amount of time we spend in this deep, slow-wave sleep actually decreases as we get older. Finally, we cycle out of that deep sleep and into what is maybe the most unique stage of all, rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. You probably know it better as the dreaming stage. And the brainwaves during REM sleep show just how strange it is. It's a high-frequency mix of sawtooth, beta, alpha, and theta waves that looks almost identical to being wide awake and alert. Your brain is incredibly active.
So while your brain is highly active, busy creating vivid dreams, your body is doing 2 completely opposite things at once. On one hand, you have high physiological arousal. Your pulse, respiration, and blood pressure all increase, and penile and clitoral erections occur. But on the other hand, your skeletal muscles are essentially paralyzed. This is a state called atonia, and it's what prevents you from acting out your dreams.
For young adults, REM sleep makes up another 25% of the night, which exactly matches the amount of time they spend in deep sleep.
And, mirroring the trend we just saw with slow-wave sleep, the percentage of time we spend in REM sleep also decreases as we get older.